a growing health, wellness, and leadership podcast designed for you to become your most empowered self.
Great day, amazing humans. Welcome to the Empowered in My Skin podcast, where our mission is to help 1 billion people in this world think in more empowering ways. Empowered humans empower humans. So you are the right spot to become a lead domino for empowerment today. So let the show begin. Yeah. Welcome, Alex. Woo!
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you so much for saying yes. And you know, very similar to what I've been to all the guests that I've actually been introducing as part of this series. One of the things that you'll find is once I shared with them the theme of the podcast, the mission that I was on to really help this world and folks in this world really adopt a self-talk lifestyle, like just pouring positivity into their mindsets about themselves. Every guest was like an immediate, there was no hesitation, and you are no different. Yeah. And so for those of you that don't and maybe have, Alex is a familiar guest. He's been on the podcast before, and I have a piece of hair that's it's just, I can't see it, but it's there somewhere. And so, I mean, everyone deserves an introduction. I love Coach AAA, which he's fondly known for. He's a UK certified.
I love you too, by the way.
I know you do. That's why you're here. He's a UK certified coach, and he's helped me in my life. You know, just listening to him do his thing on his platform, and indirectly coaching me and lifting me up and fulfilling me, and two, directly, you know, just having the opportunity to call you in those moments where, you know, I need something more than just what I'm, you know, that I feel led to. I think it's always God divine. You've prophesized a couple of times, you know, and we don't really even know each other very well. And so
we haven't even physically met.
No, we haven't. And
but we've met in spirit, and that's more important.
Yes, we've met in spirit. We have not. I can't wait for that moment when we meet in person. And in large part, when we were starting to think about, because I want to be very intentional about who I brought into this series. And I wasn't necessarily looking for people that I have not connected with. Everyone, with the exception of one of the guests, is someone who I have a personal, you know, real connection with. Yeah. And the other person that I don't, it was an immediate connection. When I met them, there was no question. Like, I recognized it was a line, God, it just the timing, everything. I was like, oh my God, I'm doing this series. Would you be? Yeah. And again, yes. Yeah. But for you is, I love, like, you do this all the time, like the way you pour into your platform, the way you pour into your community. It's all around helping them realize that everything that they need is not external to them. It's from within them, you know? And so when I started to think about who I intentionally wanted to, and that was male, because that was another thing. It was. I don't even think it was just me. My executive producer was like, "Oh my God, AAA." I was like, "Yeah, oh wow, yeah." And then you said yes.
I am so honored. I am so honored. I am trying. When I'm with you, I don't know if you ever see this kind of things where you feel like you watch movies and you feel like, you know, you see sparks. When you have some people have superpowers, and then when they meet this, they just kind of like begin to just spark.
And then the energy is flowing. Yes,
the energy is alive.
Yes,
I feel that every time with you, every time. And I'm always I always have to control it. Like, oh, don't let it get out of hand. Don't let it get out of hand. Put it, just keep it, nip it.
Well, today is the day you need to let it completely release.
No, 20 minutes is not going to work.
No, because I just,
hours. No, NK. You know.
So I'm going to get us right into it. This is somewhat of a normal episode. So I do want to start with my, you know, just our signature question, which is, what has been your most empowering thought of the day you've had so far?
Wow. Oof. Okay. My most empowering thought of the day, I haven't had much today because I had a very busy weekend. So I was sleeping through the morning. But I would say unity. So over the weekend, I had the privilege of working on the Caribbean Ignite. I'm just going to say,
yes,
Caribbean Ignite in Kitchener, and I was in the organizing committee, and I jumped on that opportunity because I saw the opportunity to actually bring a lot of unity to the Black folks in the world, literally, and show Black people that if we work together, we can accomplish almost anything we set our hearts to, and so one of the things, and I was just typing a message to the guys this morning, and when I said was that one of the things that I was so blessed for is the show of unity despite the cultural differences. And being an African guy working with these Caribbean people, and to be able to put up this amazing event and project, it's amazing. The fact that I'm new in Canada, in fact, in Canada just less than 5 years, and being able to be found as somebody of value to be able to add some value to that project is amazing. It shows the power of unity. Current thought I want to share with anyone there is, I don't care whether you are Black, you're white, you're Hispanic, whatever you are. Yeah. There's a cartoon I used to watch back in the day. It says, "Good night to you, whatever you are." So whatever you are out there, and you're watching this and you're listening to this, I want you to bear this in mind, that you are amazing as an individual. But if you can work together with others, you are unstoppable. Somebody once said, he said that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with others. So basically that's my empowering thought for the day.
Thank you. That might be the quote for this episode anyway. But so I'm going to get right into it. This episode is titled, in the whole self-talk series, this one is all about you are what you think about. And so when you think about that concept, Alex, how does that manifest in daily life?
So, you are what you think about. And it's a whole, first of all, this, just like you said, I'm so glad that you saw that part of the work I've been doing, is that's been the crux of the work I've been trying to do all these years, to make you understand that everything rises and falls on your mind. Everything rises and falls on your mind. The next important thing that everything rises and falls on after your mind is your leadership. So if you look at a team, look at the leader. Everything rises and falls on the leader. So if things work out, look at the leader. If things fail, first look at the leader. But at the same time, in your own personal life, if things are working out, look at your mind. If things are not working out, look at your mind. Because your mind is the beginning of every success. I probably said this to you before, that 90% of all human success, you know what? Let me not over exaggerate. 80% of all human success is psychological. 80% of all human failure is psychological. It's the power of the mind. Now, the first thing you must know about the mind, the first thing that the mind does is the mind thinks. So thoughts are things in the realm of the intangible. So you have to realize that as human beings, we are two-dimensional, in fact, three-dimensional. So but let me say two-dimensional in the sense that there is an invisible version of ourselves, and there's a physical version of ourselves. What do I mean? There's a version of ourselves that we cannot necessarily see physically, but we can sense, we can feel, we can see its results in the physical. But there's that version of ourselves. That's the version where the mind operates in. There's nowhere. People will tell you, okay, the mind, or when you want to talk about the mind, you refer to the brain. But the brain has been shown not to be the mind. The brain is not the mind. The mind is another tool that you have, but it cannot be found in the anatomy of man. So it goes to tell you that it's a combination of your thoughts and your emotions. That's what you call your mind. And that is the crux of it. 90% of all human success is psychological. So once you know that everything that you want to create in this life, everything that you want to be, everything that you are not being is a result of what is going on in your mind. So your mind is your most powerful resource. I'll say that one more time. Your mind is your most powerful resource. And the first thing about the mind is your thoughts. So what are you thinking? Somebody once said, think about what you're thinking about. What are you thinking about? And your most dominant thoughts will come out in your life eventually.
It's Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich, the self-confidence formula. And I also mentioned this in the trailer.
Classic.
Yeah. One of the second part of the formula I love is I know that the dominating thoughts in my mind will eventually reproduce themselves in physical activity and gradually transform themselves into physical reality. Therefore, and this is going to feed my next question to you. Therefore, I will devote 30 minutes a day thinking of the person I desire. I will concentrate my thoughts for 30 minutes a day upon thinking about the person I intend to become, thereby creating a strong mental picture of that person. Do you do this in your life, Alex? And if you do, what does it look like?
Before I say that, something came to me and I just say to you quickly. I don't know, but it won't be a bad idea to pursue a doctorate.
For who?
You.
Sorry.
I see Dr. Nkechi Robinson. I'm serious. I see a PhD. I don't know why, but it just came to me. As you were talking, I also saw Dr. Nkechi. That would be so good. Dr. Nkechi Nwafo Robinson. That would be amazing. Literally.
Thank you. Okay, anyway, back to the question.
So back to the question. Yes. Now, yes, I do that. That's my life, literally. I'm somebody who believes in the power of the invisible creates the visible. I believe in that immensely. So everything that I do, I make sure that I first of all settle it in my mind first. I go and check it in my mind first. If I'm struggling with anything, I go back to my mind instantly. And okay, where in my thinking is this wrong? I'm also somebody who believes in the power of God, of the Holy Spirit, of Jesus. And I'm a Christian, so I'm somebody that believes in that as well. So, but I first of all check my mind. You know the interesting part? I'm not one of those people who just think, oh, just go and pray to God. No. I first of all check my mind because I believe that everything I need to succeed, God already given me in the ability of my mind. Now, the key tool of the mind that you use in creating anything in life is your belief. And you must understand that the power of your belief is so powerful. Your belief listens. Your body, right, literally listens to your belief. So I was one time listening to an interview by one of somebody who's I regard as a high level teacher and pioneer and
thought leader.
Thought leader, not just thought leader. He's a teacher in it. He's literally a professor or something. Dr. Bruce Lipton.
Okay.
Now, and he was talking about the concept of epigenetic control and how your genes don't necessarily determine what happens to you. It's actually the power of your belief. So the way it works is that your belief actually responds. Your body actually responds to what you've believed. So it then adapts itself to the belief that you have about yourself. So take, for instance, if your parents had a certain disease or certain genetic disease that you count genetic, your body begins to adapt to it because it's seen your parents, who you believe you came from. And so it tells to you that it's possible that we might have it. And when you say something is possible that we might have it, it means that it's a first process. It's an idea. It's a thought. It's the first process to creating that thing in your life. Everything starts with a thought. Everything starts with a thought. Everything. I don't care what it is. This cup started with somebody's thought. Like, can we make a cup out of glass? And it became an idea and it became to reality. So everything that you see in life started with a thought. And the minute the thought has entered into your heart, it begins its journey into your life. The minute the thought has entered into your heart, it begins its journey into your life. So you must learn to arrest things at the level of your thoughts. I remember the last time I got here, we spoke on this podcast. I was saying something about insisting what you want. And I realized that was a strategy that Nkechi uses a lot. She insists that this is the way it's going to be for her. She literally says it in an insistent way that you're like, the problem will be like, oh, whatever, man, just do what you want. So, and that's very, very key. So you are literally a result of your beliefs. You become your beliefs. So once you become your beliefs, and your beliefs start with a thought. So if you can arrest it at the level of your thought. So back to your question on what do? I make sure that my thoughts are exactly what I want in my life. It sounds very silly at times. Very silly. In fact, sometimes I sound superstitious, right? So you'd be like, oh, come on, you're just being superstitious. No, I just believe that everything starts with a thought. Once I let a thought pass through, it can go and germinate and become a belief, and it becomes an idea becomes a belief becomes a reality.
Yes, I believe that.
So starts in a thought, becomes an idea becomes a belief becomes a reality. So once I know that and I'm aware of that, so in simple things like that's one of my favorite songs I love to sing. But if I don't certainly like a certain lyric in that song, I change it.
Yes.
In a different way. Yeah. Call me superstitious, call me religious, call me all that stuff. Now you sabi. As far as I am concerned, I am arresting every thought in my mind.
I hear it.
So that it conforms to the reality of what I want. Let me show you. This is my phone. People keep wondering, who's that old man? Excuse me. Who's that old man on my screen? And I keep telling them that's me. And they're like, what? That's not you. Look very well. It's me. And they realize it's me. Why do I have an old version of me on my screen? I used an app to create an old version of me and put it on my screensaver. Why? Because I want to remind myself of the me that I'm supposed to go and become.
You have to share this app. What app is that?
It's Face app, I believe.
Okay.
So it reminds me of the AAA I'm meant to become. Every time I see that guy, I'm like, okay, I can't. Lord, I can't disappoint you, but I can't disappoint this guy as well. This guy is expecting me, and I've used one of my most fine, demure picture of myself with my pose, looking so sophisticated and looking fine in my 80s and 90s. So I want to be. So that's the guy I am working towards becoming. So it's all about my thought. Yes. As long as I'm in charge of those thoughts consistently, things will begin to work out for me and carry out for me the way I want it to carry out. Because while the master of your own fate, the captain of your own ship.
Yes.
Pretty much.
So one of the things I want to make sure we get in before we close is you talk about this, but I have to also just call out that it's not in the absence of negative thinking. Right? Because I think they say 80,000, we have 80,000 negative thoughts a day or whatever. We have 80,000 thoughts a day and 80% of them are negative. So my question to you is, to helping people here, what strategies can you use to shift from those negative thoughts that do surface for us to something more positive in the moment that can continue to help us? But what's a strategy that you can share that people can use?
It's the same thing I just talked about. Now, I believe that, like you said, there's no absence of negative thinking. You cannot live a life and not have negative thoughts. It is part of the human condition. You cannot live your life without experiencing fear. It is part of the human condition. It is human. So unless you become a spirit, an angel, whatever the case might be, when you get there, tell me how it is. But as far as the human condition is concerned, it is part of the human condition.
That's correct.
You have to deal with it. Now, what you do not want is that to be the prevailing thought in your mind. Always. Sometimes, as human, even it gets the better of me. right? So I'm human. Like I said, I am human. It's a human condition. But you want to make sure that that's not the prevailing thought running your life. If it becomes the prevailing thought running your life, it will run your life aground. You will find yourself where you don't want it to be. There are two kinds of people, and I've said this over and over again, and I'll say it again. There are two kinds of people you'll find on the earth. Those being controlled by something called the locus of control. There's either those controlled by the internal locus, and there are those that are controlled by the external locus. Those controlled by the external locus are those who are controlled by the environment. So the environment wants to infiltrate your mind and tell you how to think and what should be your predominant thoughts. Your bills is your environment trying to infiltrate your mind. I know it's your responsibility. You need to deal with it. But when it comes, the way it comes, if you notice how those things come at times, especially when you are not so loaded with cash at the time, it comes and it just goes boom, and it looks like an attack. Calm down. It's just your environment trying to infiltrate your mind.
Yeah.
Your job sometimes. Maybe you have a boss who has it out for you, and it seems to those things are infiltrating your mind. That's the job. That's what it's trying to do, to create fear, to create worry, to create anxiety, to create stress. Now, all these emotions are what you call unresourceful state. It puts you in an unresourceful state of mind. What is an unresourceful state of mind? A state of mind where you are powerless, you are not powerful, you are weak, you're not in charge, you're not in control, and you are being dumped on.
Yes.
However, if you operate with what is called the internal locus of control, these are the masters of their own fate, the captains of their own ship. They are the ones who determine and decide what the perspective they have towards every situation.
Yes.
I was having the concern with some guys who didn't like me too much, or were having issues with some of the things that I was doing. And I said to them, listen, I see that you have a passion for what we're trying to accomplish. I chose to see it from that perspective, not from the perspective of you don't like me. But somebody else will look at it and say, they don't like me. And based on they don't like me, they begin to act or not act. However, I chose to look at it from the fact that they want this thing to succeed. That's why they are doing what they're doing. So since we have the same perspective, we need to then work together and find a way to work together. So the internal locus of control are those who make their own decisions. They choose their perspective. They are in charge of how things work for them. They take control of their thoughts and their beliefs and make
it.
However, when you do that, once you're able to handle the internal locus of control, you are able to deliver the results that you want in your life even more.
I love it.
Put that together.
I love it. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. So, my friend, as a parting message, I want you to leave our guests to today, one, have reached in and picked up some inspiration from this.
Yeah.
Yet still, want to really figure out tomorrow how can they, or once we stop talking, how they can really focus on shifting their mindset, because it is a practice, right? You didn't just wake up and get here. And I know for sure it's a daily practice. Like, it's a non-negotiable for me.
Yes.
What is some advice that you can give to someone who's struggling, and just one step within a minute? What can you share with them?
So quickly, take a pen, take a paper, write down all your strengths. Begin to find your strengths, begin to write them down. You might not remember everything now, but be conscious of your strengths and things that are working in your life. Listen, there are a lot of things working in your life that you actually realize, but the circumstances keep telling you that keep putting your attention on things that are not working, or the things that are missing or are similarly missing. So that's why you are in the state that you're in. So one of the first things you must do, like I said, you must take charge of your thinking and your perspectives. So how do you do that? Write it down. Begin to write down the things that are working in your life, the things that are your strengths, the things that seem to be working, even if it's a relationship and the relationship is not dead yet, but you love the person and the relationship is somehow, right? Like we say in Nigeria, but the relationship is still active. So write it down. It's still there. So that means there's an opportunity for you to make it better.
Yes.
For you to actually improve. So until it's dead entirely, even if the relationship is dead, write it down. You have learned something from that. There is always focus on the positives. It looks like positive mentality hogwash, right? That's what it looks like. But trust me, a merry heart gives you good health.
A merry heart gives you good health.
Yes. When your mind is consistently seeing positive and finding happiness and finding good in every situation, it will affect your perspective towards life and your outlook, and your body will respond better. The environment will respond better for you. I guarantee you. So first thing I would say to do is start writing down the goods that happened to you or that you see in your life. I'll give you a classic story before I go. Story of David and Goliath. You know that story. David walked up to Goliath and then he was going to fight Goliath. He was a 70-year-old kid before an experienced warrior giant, right? And then the guy came with swords and spears and everything. And David came with only a sling and a stone. But David said something that was profound. He said, I have fought the lion, just the way I fought the lion, and I fought the bear. And God gave me victory over them. The same way God will give me victory over you. He had no experience in battle, but he went back to the things that had worked for him. So always write down the things that have worked for you. And every time things go bad or things are looking overwhelming, go back to those things and read them again. You will see that your countenance will change.
Woo! There you go. I love it. Alex, as always, you are quite powerful and you have a very strong mindset and I love it. Keep feeding it, keep fueling it, keep sharing it.
NK, you bring out the best in me.
You're making a great difference in this world. So thank you very much, my friend. Please give and join me in a big, gigantic podcast welcome to the one, the amazing John Ribeiro. Yeah. So let's get right into it. I invited you into this series. I remember I called you and I think when I shared it, again, it was one of those things. I called you, you didn't pick up, but you called me back right away. And you were, yes, like immediately. I told you, hey, I'm launching the series about self-talk. You know that this is like a big mission of mine is to really help people pause, like their inner voice is their most loudest voice, and it's positive and supportive and serving for them. And so, so the self-talk life is real. And so this series is all about that. It's all about mindset, and it's all about how do we condition our mindset to be more supportive to everything that we want to is kind of achieve that's in front of us. And so this episode is titled, oh my gosh, you are what you think about. And so my question to you is, self-talk and reality, like it's around that, but how does the concept of that, you are what you think about, manifest in daily life?
Yeah, and listen, 100%. And it's funny you talked about this because we were just talking about this on the last couple of episodes of the Say Yes Movement podcast. And you are what you think about, and we had a couple of moments where we've been able to reflect past, I would even say the last 5 years. I was talking with somebody yesterday around, being a corporate employee for 22 years and then stepping out of those shoes and into the role of an entrepreneur and an individual business person. And all I could say is, I had to think about different thoughts because once you're an employee it took me almost a year to let go of the identity that gets attached to being, a corporate employee and having biweekly paychecks and having a team to run and having objectives and having all these different things day in, day out. And when you go out on your own, you got to think in a very, very different way. And, today I get to wear many hats, which I love, today I'm a coach, tomorrow I'm a teacher, and the next day, who knows, right? I can be a landlord or I can be a property manager. It's so beautiful to step in and out of different things, or even, thinking about what I'm going to be doing next week. I'm stepping into another triathlon, so I'm doing an event.
Oh, wow, you are doing it again.
Yeah, I get to step in and out of different things as many times as I like. And what ends up happening is you got to think about those things in advance and what that starts to look like. And, you have to have a vision in your mind before you can actually create it externally. And what I've seen is, what ends up happening in here actually manifests externally. So the thoughts that you have really become the results in the life that you're living today. And I've seen that over and over, right?
And can you provide maybe experience, personal or just through like coaching you've had with others, but two polar opposites where you've seen the thoughts that are maybe not so positively serving someone manifest in their life, and then those that are positive, what they've been able to achieve in either spectrum.
Yeah, it's you see it over and over. So just the thought of thinking impacts your ability to do things, right? So you have a negative thought, it weakens you. And actually, I just did a workshop this week where I was showing somebody just by saying, and I think I've seen you do it in Ink, where you have the person say their name correct, and then you have them say it incorrect, and they lose all their energy, they lose all their power. They're like, how does that even happen? Because your body knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, the one thing that kills me, and words have power, and this is the one thing that we've talked about a few times. But when you start saying I can't, or it's too tough, or I'll never be able to do that, I'm like, you can, you just don't want to. It's a very different thing. So choose your words wisely, because you ever say, and I see this in corporate environments, I can't do that, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. You can do anything you put your mind to, as long as you put your mind to it.
Right.
And I've seen people not get the promotion because they think, hey, nobody wants me to get to the next level. Nobody wants to see me grow. Nobody wants to support me. And, the first person that needs to support you is you. And when you start thinking about, what, I can do this. I got more than enough capabilities. And I kind of went through a little bit of a reflection this week. I think about all the different things that I've learned over the last, 10, 15 years, from NLP to coaching to triathlon training, Ironman training. These are all things that have created a new version of me that didn't exist even just 10 years ago.
So maybe take us through that thought process, right? Like there was a day where you were not an Ironmaner. Like you never ran one. Maybe you admired those that had, but it was never on your list of things to do. And then first of all, so how did it get on that list?
Yeah.
And what kind of person puts something like that on their list?
A crazy person, let me tell you. The same type of person that puts natural bodybuilding competition on their list, okay? So you can't be all there. You really got to start thinking completely out of your box. And I actually have a list somewhere in my room where it has the top 50 things I want to do in my life, right? So, I used to call it the bucket list. I'm going to call it the living list, because these are the things I want to do while I'm still alive.
Right.
And an Ironman was always there, watching. Listen, I was never really an athletic person. Growing up, I played hockey for a little bit, but I was never, really into sports, right? I didn't get into sports until my late 20s. So for anybody who's out there and they're thinking, it's too late to go do these things, it's never too late, right? Yeah. And I've seen people in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s compete in these events that, they continue to inspire me. And, ironically enough, their name is John too when I meet them. And I'm like, it's just my future self coming back to tell me, keep going. You got this. This is where you're going to be in 20, 30 years. And it started with, this is what I want to do. We talked about visualizing the outcomes that you want in your life. And I started to visualize the outcomes. I started to visualize not just doing an event like an Ironman, but getting on the other side of the finish line. What that would feel like, coming through the finish line, having my hands up. And actually I have a photo that is exactly what I was thinking in my head.
Right.
Exactly the same outfit, but I was thinking, this is the way I want to cross the finish line. And that's the way I did. So a lot of it, and I forget, there's a famous author who talks about visualization, and she says, as long as you can visualize it, you can do it.
And so I like that you said that. So I do believe in visualization, which is a lot of times when I'm practicing a talk or any other, I've already delivered that talk to the room before I actually deliver that talk in person to the room, right? And so, and a large times when I sit in reflection, I'm like, wow, the experience was even, almost sometimes it's even better than I imagined, but the experience was like what I imagined plus some, type thing. Anyway, all of that to say is in your experience, like just through your thoughts, do you believe that the two are separate? Like, is there what you think about and is there visualization? Like, are they two separate types of activities? Or do you feel like there's some sense of, there's obviously some elements of integration, but do you consider them two separate types of activities that people can focus on, or are they one and the same?
To me, they're the same, right? Because
Mm.
what you're saying to yourself while you're visualizing,
Mhm.
because so I'll use an example that is somewhat recent in the last 7-8 years.
Mhm.
My wife and I, we had a vision, Diane and I, we had a vision of where we wanted to renovate, part of our house and get a new kitchen. It was funny. I was visually in my mind, I would walk through the space, seeing all the things that were there, the new renovation, the new kitchen, and the way the cupboards were going to pull out. It's like, wow, this is so cool. I mean, there's still an excitement every time I think about certain things while I visualize them, because they're not things I take for granted. They're things that I'm grateful for and I appreciate. And tips and tools and suggestions that I get from people are always about, step into gratitude while you're going through all these things. And I'm like, I'm grateful that I get to be here. And even doing the Ironman in BC, as I was climbing up this crazy hill at 80, at the 80 kilometer mark, and just, going 2-3 kilometers up this hill because I was running out of gas. I thought about you, and I thought about my friend Sultan, who talked about, when you're in those difficult moments, you step into the gratitude of it. And, that again, just having those positive thoughts give you energy where you thought you couldn't or didn't have any energy. And I stepped into it and I was like, you know what? I'm grateful that I get to be here. I get to be here. This is not, I'm taking it for granted, because how many other people would love to do what I do right now?
Right. And it's so like, there's so many practical ways that you just like, that just came flooding to my head. Like, one of the biggest things people still talk about to this day, and I'm just like, how do we like put that out of business, is this imposter syndrome? And I'm like, there's no, like, ever since somebody amazing in my life said to me, Nkechi, there's absolutely nothing imposter about you. I've just decided that that's what I'm going to choose to believe, because I can believe that there is something imposter about me, or I can believe that there's nothing. And so I'm just going to say, you know what? I'm just going to believe that there's nothing imposter about me, but it does imposter about me. I used to say imposture, but a girlfriend corrected me, imposter about me. That said, it doesn't preclude that I don't have these moments where I'm in these experiences and there's a feeling or a sense that doesn't make me feel completely like either aligned to the moment or my most confident self or this, any other. And so what I've done is, like, those are real. Those happen. I'm a human being. And I think they happen to everyone. The key is, I've said, when that happens, what is it? Atomic habits. There is the habit of the thoughts, the gratitude, the things that I can actually, like, okay, so this happens completely, like, okay, now what do I do? Step into gratitude, step into certainty of the things that I do know about, like convince myself that there's nothing imposter about me. So this is not an imposter moment. This is a moment where I need to either double down on the questions that I need to ask to learn something more. I need to like stick an affirmation in there and just tell myself how awesome I am. But I like, that's what came flooding to me. And the other one that is when people, after they follow somebody, they have to follow somebody, they step to the mic and they're like, oh my God, how do I follow that? Or
I know, I've been there.
I've been there. Yeah. Right. I think the gratitude moment is, I am so grateful that I had the opportunity to follow that and have them pour into me, which further enriches me for you, right? Like, I think it's like, like there's so many alternate mechanisms to, like, I was actually really shocked because Barack Obama did it to his wife the other day. I mean, who wants to follow Michelle, but he actually said, and I'm thinking, you're pretty amazing in your own right as well, right? But you don't recognize those are demeaning, like, just even that moment, as much as he was trying to be funny, he could have and added, that said, I'm taking that powerful woman and everything that she said and using it in this moment to empower myself more. Like,
it's a reframe, and it's funny because we have a common friend, Roger Caesar, and I remember going on stage one day after him. And if you don't know Roger, you should know Roger. He's a phenomenal speaker.
Oh my God.
And phenomenal. Can I tell you, I went on stage and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to speak after this guy. I'm like, all right, everybody, I'm not a Roger, but I'm here to deliver the message, and I love the reframe of what you just did. they've inspired you, and now I'm taking that and I'm
I'm adding to that, right? Like, and then here's the thing, like, I think it also empowers the people that you're listening to. Like, wow. First of all, I'm giving them their flowers, but frick, man, I get to follow that. And it's true what they say. When you allow your light to shine, you give others permission to do the same. And so they just shine their light here in this room, and you guys are about to be doubly illuminated by mine, right? Like,
I love it. I love it. I love it. You know, but it's here. So, you know, just going back to the self-talk piece, this is what I acknowledged in the moment. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going after this person, but I'm also good enough to be on the same stage as them.
Right.
Yeah. And, you know, I remember the day that I knew I was going to be an author. I was doing a book signing with Jen Sincero, who wrote the book, You Are a Badass. And she was signing my book, and, you know, everybody was asking her, you know, all these crazy questions, like very superficial, high level questions. And, you know, I walked up to her and I asked, you know, what's the one thing you want me to take away from this? As a fellow author, what's the one thing you want me to take away from this? And I wasn't an author yet, but I knew I was going to be an author. And at that day, that moment, that time, because of the thoughts I was thinking, I was going to approach it differently. And I knew one day, you and we're going to be in an author's lounge somewhere, or getting backstage in a green room, getting ready to speak on a big stage, because my thoughts are already there with you. And then you start to, like, it was just such an enlightening moment. And imagine, you know, anybody that's listening to this right now, you know, the people that you're looking up to, what if you saw yourself as their equal? Yeah. Not as just them being your hero. And listen, you're my hero. There's, you know, a variety of other people that are out there continue to be my hero, but now when I see you, it's like, you're my hero. You're, you know, vice versa. Like you said at the beginning of in the introduction,
it's a two-way street.
We encourage and support each other, right? Like, you know, and I remember there was a speech that you were working on, and you're like, you know, I want to take it to a next level. And I remember calling you from a beach in Florida.
Help me.
We got to take this speech to the next level, and you got to go deep. And that's all I said. I left it there, and you called me back, and you're like, yeah. And it was such an empowering moment, because we, you know, as a community, we support each other, taking each other to the next level. You know, and part of that, you know, self-talk that you have with yourself is also sharing it with others, so people know what standard to, you know, to keep you at.
That's right.
And that's the part that I love. Like, this is why I continue to come back. And you know, I'm going to bring back the podcast. I renamed it to the Canadian Job Search Podcast. And because
I should have known that.
It's still alive and it's thriving. I think I'm going to redo version 2.0 of it, because it's so powerful in terms of how it's supporting and you know, supporting the people that are out there that are going through transition right now.
Yeah. You would like this. I mean, I don't want to let too much out of the back, but I'm writing. So we always talk about becoming. And so there is something that has actually surfaced in my career that 2 years ago, I had no view of vision that this would even be something possible. And so I'm not there yet, but I'm writing the book to get there. So it's becoming what it is I'm striving for. And the day I publish that book is going to be the same day that I'm signing the contract for that role.
All right. You're keeping everybody in suspense. So
the book is going to be the journey to getting there. But I think the power behind it is showing people that the how is none of your business. You're on a journey. There's a goalpost, and allow life to guide you. And I'm going to transparently share the guidance that I get until that. Like, I'm convinced about that. I even wrote it on August 21st. I wrote that the day this book publishes is going to be the same day. And that means I have to get to writing now. Anyway.
Yeah.
So my parting, I put myself.
You got ghostwriters out there that can help you.
You're right. So parting question I have is, like, it's easy for us because we've been doing the work for quite some time about that positive self-talk. Again, it's not that I don't have negative self-talk. It's that I have conditioned habits that really help me drawn it out. But what advice would you give to someone struggling with negative self-talk and maybe just leaving, and as we close out this podcast, leaving them with like a positive, tangible step that they can do to really step into a more positive mindset?
Yeah. Well, I think the very first thing is take action towards something. It doesn't matter what it is, right? So, a lot of time, that's exactly what it is. It's just the thought. And, we sit in thought because we take no action. And what I've realized, especially over the last 2 years, is as I'm stepping into a new version of myself that gets to like be out there and, command a certain rate for speaking and training and teaching and coaching. A lot of it's just taking action towards it, right? And it's the baby steps. You talked about it. What's the habit, right? Like just even something as simple, and one of the things I do with my community in the 30-day reset is every Tuesday we send out gratitude drops to people around us and sharing the gratitude and just making it a practice, right? So take action towards something. And if the one thing you can do today is, hey, I'm grateful that I'm here.
Yes.
That's it. That's that first step.
Yeah.
And that will lead, if you do that consistently for 90 days, they say, it creates a new habit, it creates a new way of thinking,
Yes.
creates new neural pathways in your brain to be a new version of you.
Yeah.
So something as simple as just stepping into gratitude once a day is going to change your life.
Going to change your life. Wow. Stepping into gratitude at least once a day is going to change your life. That is the quote of this episode by Mr. John Ribeiro. I am so grateful for you. Thank you so much for being an amazing and positive human in my life. And, I know you're going to kill this next endeavor that you're on. You're just, keep striving and keep, it looks good on you, first of all. And, just really blessed to have such greatness in my life. So thank you.
Thank you.
And to everyone who is listening to this, this is where John and I sign out. Bye-bye. There you have it. I trust that you're feeling more empowered in your skin. And as the late Dr. Maya Angelou says, when you get, you give, when you learn, you teach. So it would mean so much for us at EIMS if you share this episode and tag us or teach an insight that you learned from today's episode on your socials and tag us. And remember to go over onto iTunes and leave us a review or follow us on socials at Empowered in My Skin. But most importantly, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.